Hi everyone and welcome for this how to paint an Slaanesh army. So I'm going to show you the different steps I use to paint an army. I'm beginning with some airbrush, and after I come back with some ink, some airbrush again, and I finish with simple brush by highlighting and everything else. So let's go for the paint. Don't hesitate to like and to comment if you have any question. Thank you. I primed all the miniatures with some alien purple from Army Painter, and I start with my airbrush with a little bit of Flesh 2 and Fuchsia color from Pro Color. As you can see, I start by painting the flesh on all the different model. When I use airbrush, I make some few layer. I don't stay too much long on one part. And after I make it again when everything it's totally dry. As you can see, I on this new format of tutorial, I'm going to make all the different elements, so it lets more time to the different elements to be really totally dry before the second step. As you can see, I start my second step just by adding a little bit more white in my mix. Don't hesitate if you don't have the exactly same color, don't hesitate to try to use the same kind of color that can totally work. Don't need to buy more color necessary. You just have to take care about the color into my airbrush and try to have something similar. As you can see, more I'm going to paint, and smaller will be the surfaces I'm going to reach. So more I'm going to paint, smaller will be the surface I'm going to reach. It's really important to be sure to have very nice transition. Don't hesitate after this tutorial to ask if you have any question into the comment. Don't hesitate to like and to share to your friends the tutorials. That will be help me a lot to reach more people. I start and make again one layer on all the flesh parts. This time I'm going to use the flesh 1, so a more lightning color, to highlight once again the flesh part. Working on different model like that can be very interesting to increase your level painting skill, because it's going to you are going to use always the same movement, the same method, so it's going to be more natural for you, and miniature after miniatures you are going to see your evolution. So don't hesitate and paint as soon and directly when you can. Don't hesitate to paint all time you can. That's the most effective way to evolve and to have some good results at the end. I'm going to come back with some red color just to push more shadow, so I take care to preserve my highlights, my light, the more strong light, and I'm going to push into the shadow more red. By the way, I'm going to use some red at the end of every surfaces. The foot, the head is going to have a better demoniac effect and bestial effect. I really enjoy to use some very simple method when I create an army, because it gives more life to the entire army. when you have too much details on the model, it's going to create something more strange, and it looks like the different elements is separate. Don't hesitate if you have the luck to find this old Slaanesh model, to take them, because it's really easy to paint. I come back with some black to put more shadow on the end, and by the way, I'm going to push in black all my the different stuff, the sword, the armor, everything who are not flesh color. All the miniatures will be in non-metallic metal. I really enjoying painting in non-metallic metal, because it's really more easy to push a focus on your miniatures, and to be sure that people is going to have focus on some part just by adding highlight and white. So I continue with the black color to put on every different model. I accelerate the video 4 times before cutting, so don't worry about that. Take your time. It can be really more long for you, but take the time to make every step. And if you can, watch the video before painting if you want to paint something similar, and during your paint. Now I am going to use some contrast paint. I really enjoy contrast paint for different reasons. The first is for basing miniatures. You can see different tutorial on my channel if you want. And for example, right here, I'm going to use it very diluted with the medium to push more shadow and to push the color in the recesses, to be sure the contrast on the color will be very strong. And I use more and more contrasts just to balance sometimes my color, and I use I think every time I use contrast with some medium, and if necessary I make 2 layers of contrast if I want something more strong, but the basical color is very covering, so I use a lot of time medium when I use contrast. In my different video I made for contrast color, I use it essentially for base, simple base, and more I'm going to use it, and more I'm going to use for different kind of effect. For the moment, this different step is pretty easy. You are going to see that the more long element will be to make every lining, every last highlight with white, and it's going to take us more time. As you can see, I tap my color. I don't try to push them as I made on my different video, just because contrast is more useful in that way for me. Every time I am going to show you something, always remember that there are some tips you are going to use by yourself because it's natural for you and you are going to use it, and some other one you are going to don't really need it. So don't hesitate, take really what you need and what you want from that video, and don't hesitate to share and to show your different results on Instagram, Facebook, and on the comments. That's always a pleasure to see the different elements people are going to paint after using my tutorial. I'm start to paint the non-metallic part. For that, I'm going to use black contrasts and a lot of medium, or you can use the Mechanicum gray and use a little bit less medium. In that two case, I'm going to use medium. For example, on the black contrast, I'm going to use 5 portion of medium contrast for 1 portion of contrast paint. And for the gray, I'm going to use 2 portion of medium for 1 portion of contrast paint. That's going to give me a perfect base to continue my highlighting after that. And after that, I'm going to use a little bit airbrush to push all my first highlights on the non-metallic metal, and trying to don't touch the flesh part. You always can use some kind of masking to mask some elements and to be sure to not reach them. But for me, it's not very easy because it takes a lot of time, and I prefer to use only my airbrush and to be sure to have a perfect target, and to use the direction of my miniatures and my brush to be sure I'm not going to touch a zone I don't want to touch. My brush is pretty charged with contrast paints, and I put on all armor and sword parts. I come back on the different elements who are just some tissue with some purple contrast, and now I come back with my airbrush to push all my first highlights on the different black parts. If you have any question, don't hesitate to put your question in the comments. I always try to answer as soon as possible. Don't hesitate to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Mohand Hearts. So I continue with my white color, and I put on every small part. Once again, I'm going to step by step reach smaller and smaller surfaces to have my degradé, my transition perfectly, the more clean I can. Not necessarily perfectly, because without using brush you can't really have something perfect, but just try to fix and to focus on one point when you push your highlights with your airbrush. Don't stay too much on only one surfaces, because you are going to push your paint with the hair will come from airbrush, and just move around every time, and don't hesitate to make 2, 3, 4, 5 steps of highlighting on one small point if you need it. As you can see, the result is going to be very quick and pretty cool. So if you have any army who can be down like that, for example, some Tinch army, some Demon army, that can be very, very useful. I start using white to push every highlight on every part of the armor, and it's the more long part, but it's pretty interesting because you can easily finish the minis just by this step. And after that, I'm going to push my highlights in the same way with just some white color from Pro Color this time on every part. As you can see, I make this on the flesh too. The only things you need to understand is the dilution will be like milk, so you can push it easily. As you can see, I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, but I have a size 2, and there are some water on the base of my brush. We are going to come step by step, and to be sure to have on my end of brush always a paint diluted. So I push on every line, and sometimes I'm going to tap this color if I need a more strong effect or just a small point. If you have any question, once again, don't hesitate. If you want to support me into this passion, don't hesitate to support me on Patreon. As you can see, every element need to be to have some highlighting. It's pretty important. You can see I use the white to push my contrasts on all the model. Painting an army, it's a pretty cool challenge, and I learned a lot by painting army. Even if I make some golden demon miniatures and I win some golden demon, I learn more on painting some army and some quick miniatures, because I'm going to use some different kind of method and techniques. Start to paint something for a golden demon. A lot of time I'm going to use the same method I already control. I continue on this more large model, and as you can see, I'm going to use the same kind of method by pushing all highlights on every edges and every point. It's a more long part, but you can have some satisfying by finish the different model at this moment, except the base, but it's pretty interesting, because just with some few highlights you can really make a big and huge difference, even if that's a tabletop miniatures. That's going to make a huge difference at the end. After that, I'm going to put some camo green on the hair of the largest model. That's going to be my basic color, and I'm going to highlight the hair after. For the moment, I come back, as you have seen before, on every edges to push my highlights, my line of white, to create my non-metallic metal effect. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, and these paints have the dilution of milk. It's similar, and you can easily make different steps to have more and more contrasts on your white color. You can push your highlights on the flesh parts in the same way than we do before. The repetition of the movement is the key when you want to have a better result, because you are going to make more layer in a few time and have a better result at the end. I come back with some red layer from Prince August and I push all my leather on the miniatures. I use a very simple and neutral color because my two more important color will be in first the flesh, in second time the non-metallic metal. I come back with some very powerful cobra green from Army Painter, just to put a little bit highlights on every part of the hair. I really hope you enjoy this small and quick tutorial. Don't hesitate once again to subscribe to my channel. Let small comments, even if you like them. If you don't have any question, that's always cool to have some feedback on my work. And see you soon for the next step. I just show you some small pics of the different model at the end. And don't hesitate to find the time to paint. See you guys!